Good afternoon and welcome back to another episode of The Longing, where we're going to be continuing to read Moby Dick. And because this chapter is going to take us not the full amount of time, we're just going to start making our way into the chapter following. But we're just going to see how far we can get in the time we have. So, come and join me as we read Moby Dick. Chapter 127. The Deck. The coffin laid upon 2 line tubs, between the vice bench and the open hatchway, the carpenter caulking its seams, the string of twisted oakum slowly unwinding from a large roll of it placed in the bosom of his frock. Ahab comes slowly from the cabin gangway, and hears Pip following him. "Back, lad, I will be with ye again presently." He goes. Not this hand complies with my humour more genially than that boy. Middle aisle of a church. What's here? Life buoy, sir. Mr. Starbuck's orders. Oh, look, sir. Beware the hatchway. Thank ye, man. Thy coffin lies handy to the vault. Sir? The hatchway? Oh, so it does, sir. So it does. Art not thou the leg maker? Look, did not this stump come from thy shop? I believe it did, sir. Most the ferule stand, sir. Does the ferule stand, sir? Well enough, but art thou not also the undertaker? Aye, sir. I patched up this thing here as a coffin for Queequeg, but they've set me now to turning it into something else. Then tell me, art thou not an arrant, all-grasping, intermeddling, monopolizing, heathenish old scamp, to be one day making legs, and the next day coffins to clap them in, and yet again life-buoys out of those same coffins? Thou art as unprincipled as the gods, and as much of a jack of all trades. But I do not mean anything, sir. I do as I do. The gods again. Hark ye, dost thou not ever sing working about a coffin? The Titans, they say, hummed snatches when chipping out the craters for volcanoes, and the gravedigger in the play sings, spade in hand. Dost thou never? Sing, sir? Do I sing? Oh, I'm indifferent enough, sir, for that. But the reason why the gravedigger made music must have been because there was none in his spade, sir. But the caulking mallet is full of it. Hark to it. Aye, and that's because the lid there's a sounding board. And what in all things makes the sounding board is this: there's naught beneath. And yet a coffin with a body in it rings pretty much the same. Carpenter. Hast thou ever helped carry a bier, and heard the coffin knock against the churchyard gate going in? Faith, sir, Faith? What's that? Why, faith, sir, it's only a sort of exclamation like, "That's all," sir. Go on. I was about to say, sir, that art thou a silkworm? Dost thou spin thy own shroud out of thyself? Look at thy bosom. Dispatch and get these traps out of sight. He goes aft. That was sudden now. But squalls come sudden in hot latitudes. I've heard that the Isle of Albemarle, one of the Galapagos, is cut by the equator right in the middle. Seems to me some sort of equator cuts yon old man too right in the middle. He's always under the line. Fiery hot, I tell ye. He's looking this way. Come, Oakham, quick. Here we go again. This wooden mallet is the cork, and I'm the professor of musical glasses. Tap, tap. Ahab to himself. There's a sight. There's a sound. The grey-headed woodpecker tapping the hollow tree. Blind and dumb might well be envied now. See, that thing rests on 2 line tubs, full of tow lines. A most malicious wag, that fellow. Rat-tat. So man's second tick. Oh, how immaterial are all materials. What things real are there, but imponderable thoughts? Here now's the very dreaded symbol of grim death, by a mere hap, made the expressive sign of the help and hope of most endangered life. A life-buoy of a coffin. Does it go further? Can it be that in some spiritual sense the coffin is, after all, but an immortality preserver? I'll think of that. But no, So far gone am I in the dark side of earth, that its other side, the theoretic bright one, seems but uncertain twilight to me. Will ye never have done, carpenter, with that accursed sound? I go below. Let me not see that thing here when I return again. Now then, Pip, we'll talk this over. I do suck most wondrous philosophies from thee. Some unknown conduits from the unknown worlds must empty into thee. Chapter 128. The Pequod meets the Rachel. Next day a large ship, the Rachel, was descried, bearing directly down upon the Pequod, all her spars thickly clustering with men. At the time the Pequod was making good speed through the water, but as the broad-winged windward stranger shot nigh to her, the boastful sails all fell together as blank bladders that are burst, and all life fled from the smitten hull. "Bad news, she brings bad news," muttered the old Manxman. But ere her commander, who with trumpet to mouth stood up in his boat, ere he could hopefully hail, Ahab's voice was heard. "Hast seen the white whale?" "Aye, yesterday. Have ye seen a whaleboat adrift?" Throttling his joy, Ahab negatively answered this unexpected question, and would then have fain boarded the stranger, when the stranger captain himself, having stopped his vessel's way, was seen descending her side. A few keen pulls and his boat-hook soon clenched the Pequod's main chains, and he sprang to the deck. Immediately he was recognized by Ahab for a Nantucketer he knew, but no formal salutation was exchanged. Where was he? "Not killed, not killed?" cried Ahab, closely advancing. "How was it?" It seemed that somewhat late on the afternoon of the day previous, while 3 of the strangers' boats were engaged with a shoal of whales, which had led them some 4 or 5 miles from the ship, and while they were yet in swift chase to windward, the white hump and head of Moby Dick had suddenly loomed up out of the water, not very far to leeward, whereupon the 4th rigged boat, a reserved one, had been instantly lowered in chase. After a keen sail before the wind, this 4th boat, the swiftest keeled of all, seemed to have succeeded in fastening, at least, as well as the man at the masthead could tell anything about it. In the distance he saw the diminished dotted boat, and then a swift gleam of bubbling white water, and after that nothing more, whence it was concluded that the stricken whale must have indefinitely run away with his pursuers, as often happens. There was some apprehension, but no positive alarm as yet. The recall signals were placed in the rigging. Darkness came on, and forced to pick up her 3 far to windward boats, ere going in quest of the 4th one in the precisely opposite direction. The ship had not only been necessitated to leave that boat to its fate till near midnight, but, for the time, to increase her distance from it. But the rest of her crew being at last safe aboard, she crowded all sail, stunsail on stunsail, after the missing boat, kindling a fire in her trypots for a beacon, and every other man aloft on the lookout. But though when she had thus sailed a sufficient distance to gain the presumed place of the absent ones when last seen, though she then paused to lower her spare boats to pull all around her, and not finding anything, had again dashed on, again paused and lowered her boats, and though she had thus continued doing till daylight, yet not the least glimpse of the missing keel had been seen. The story told, the stranger captain immediately went on to reveal his object in boarding the Pequod. He desired that ship to unite with his own in the search, by sailing over the sea some 4 or 5 miles apart, on parallel lines, and so sweeping a double horizon, as it were. "I will wager something now," whispered Stubb to Flask, "that someone in that missing boat wore off that captain's best coat, mayhap his watch. He's so cursed anxious to get it back. Whoever heard of 2 pious whale ships cruising after one missing whaleboat in the height of the whaling season? See, Flask, only see how pale he looks, pale in the very buttons of his eyes. Look, it wasn't the coat, it must have been the... My boy, my own boy is among them. For God's sake, I beg, I conjure," here claimed the stranger captain to Ahab, who thus far had but icily received his petition. For 48 hours let me charter your ship. I will gladly pay for it, and roundly pay for it, if there be no other way. For 48 hours only that, you must, oh you must, and you shall do this thing. His son, cried Stubb. Oh, it's his son he's lost. I take back the coat and watch. What says Ahab? We must save that boy. He's drowned with the rest on 'em last night, said the old Manx sailor, standing behind them. I heard. All of ye heard their spirits. Now, as it shortly turned out, what made this incident of the Rachels the more melancholy was the circumstance that not only was one of the captain's sons among the number of the missing boat's crew, but among the number of the other boat's crews at the same time, but on the other hand, separated from the ship during the dark vicissitudes of the chase, there had been still another son, as that, for a time, the wretched father was plunged to the bottom of the cruellest perplexity, which was only solved for him by his chief mate's instinctively adopting the ordinary procedure of a whale ship in such emergencies. That is, when placed between jeopardized but divided boats, always pick up the majority first. But the captain, for some unknown constitutional reason, had refrained from mentioning all this, and not till forced to it by Ahab's iciness did he allude to his one yet missing boy, a little lad, but 12 years old, whose father, with the earnest but unmisgiving hardihood of a Nantucket's paternal love, had thus early sought to initiate him in the perils and wonders of a vocation most immemorially the destiny of all his race. Nor does it unfrequently occur that Nantucket captains will send a son of such tender age away from them for a protracted 3 or 4 years' voyage in some other ship than their own, so that their first knowledge of a whaleman's career shall be unenervated by any chance display of a father's natural but untimely partiality, or undue apprehensiveness and concern. And with that, even though we're not at the end of the chapter, we are close in. We're still far enough away that we are going to end the episode here. And I'm going to say thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, or night, no matter what time of day it is. I hope you all have a wonderful one of it. And as always, we will be back tomorrow for more of The Longing. Goodbye.